Trump, Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz. Why this story matters. Right now, the world is watching a very tense situation involving the United States, Iran, Trump, and the Strait of Hormuz. And this is not just another foreign policy headline. This story matters because it involves military strikes, oil shipments, nuclear talks, and the risk of a much bigger war. What happened? U.S. officials say American forces shot down Iranian drones near the Strait of Hormuz. They also say the U.S. struck a drone control site in Bandar Abbas, an important Iranian port city near the strait. The U.S. is calling these defensive actions. The argument from Washington is that Iran's drones were threatening American forces, commercial ships, and the fragile ceasefire. Iran tells a different story. Iranian media has accused the U.S. of violating the ceasefire and claims its forces were responding to suspicious American activity near the strait. So, as usual in a crisis like this, both sides are blaming each other. Why the Strait of Hormuz is so important. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important shipping lanes in the world. A huge amount of global oil and gas moves through this narrow waterway. So when there are drones, missile threats, or military strikes near Hormuz, markets react fast. Oil prices can rise, gas prices can climb, and a regional conflict can suddenly affect people all over the world. That is why this story is getting so much attention. Is there a deal or not? There are also reports that the US and Iran may be working on a possible agreement. The goal would be to extend the ceasefire, keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and address Iran's nuclear program. But there is confusion. Some reports suggest a deal may be close. Iranian media says no final deal exists. So right now, it looks like there may be a draft or a framework, but not a finished agreement. And Trump's approval may be the deciding factor. The nuclear issue. At the center of all this is Iran's nuclear program. The U.S. position is that Iran cannot be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. But military strikes do not always solve that problem. They can delay Iran. They can send a message. But they can also trigger retaliation. That is the danger here. One strike leads to another. Then another. And suddenly, a limited conflict becomes a much larger war. Why this feels serious. This story feels bigger than the usual Iran headline because several things are happening at once. There are real military strikes. The Strait of Hormuz is involved. Oil markets are watching. Nuclear talks are still hanging over everything. And both sides are accusing each other of breaking the ceasefire. That combination is dangerous. When diplomacy and military action happen at the same time, one mistake can change everything. What to watch next? The big question is whether Trump approves some kind of deal. If he does, the immediate goal would likely be to extend the ceasefire and keep Hormuz open. If he does not, the situation could get much more dangerous. Also watch Iran's next move. Does Iran pull back? Does it test the US again? Or does it use regional allies to raise pressure somewhere else? And finally, watch oil prices. That may be the first sign that markets think this conflict is getting worse. The big takeaway. The simplest way to put it is this. The US and Iran are still talking, but they are also still shooting. That is what makes this so risky. There may be a chance for a deal. But the ceasefire is fragile, the Strait of Hormuz is a pressure point, and one bad move could turn this into a much larger crisis.